Alright, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Amos Kester, your favorite animal scientist. We are back here in Ebonyi State. As you can see, this is the farm where I actually made a video about marketing of snails. And this is 3 months into the production of this farm. And here standing with me is the farm manager. You can see other staff of the farm. They're actually doing some cleanup on the farm. And I'm back here because we are having a little challenge, and the challenge is that the mortality rate has been a little bit higher than expected. So when situations like this arise, we always come around to see what is actually the problem. So first of all, on arrival, we need to get the records, the data of the farm, what has been going on in the farm. And so far we can tell you this is marking 3 months of the establishment of this farm. We've had over 30,000 eggs produced and 13,000 plus snails have hatched within the period of 3 months since we started this farm. So the records are there, and this is the farm manager, as you can see. Also, getting here, we had to check a few things and discovered that the problems have been as a result of little management issues. As you can see, the pens are flooded with excess water. It ought not to be so. We don't have dry plantain leaves on the pens, which also ought not to be so, because we try as much as possible to produce a near natural environment for the snails, irrespective of the farm that we are raising them intensively. So ideally, you have dry plantain leaves through which the snails will find shade as they do in their natural habitat. But since we are bringing them into captivity and managing them intensively, we have to create that atmosphere for them. So when you don't have that atmosphere, it affects the well-being of the animals. And that's what has happened here. Like when we stocked, the snails had exactly that atmosphere, which we had the dry plantain leaves, we had everything for the snails. But as time goes on, they feed also on those dry plantain leaves. Even though the dry plantain leaves are not food for them, we give them food on daily basis, but still they feed on the dry plantain leaves. So gradually they deplete it, and when it's depleted and it can no longer cover half of the pens, you're expected to replace hard, fresh or new dry plantain leaves in the pens in order to provide shade or cover for the snails during the daytime. But once that is completely out of it, the snails become very uncomfortable. And also, because of the conditions we have here, the pens are almost flooded. It has also contributed to the high rate of mortality we have experienced. So, with snails, we have 20% mortality even when you're doing everything right. But when you're not doing everything right, the mortality rate will increase. That's the way it is. Now, why 20% mortality? It's a way of controlling the population of the animal naturally, because snails can lay a lot of eggs. We have a particular species of snail, they are Catina catina, they are Catina fulica. These snails can lay as much as 500 eggs at once, and they can lay like that 4 times in a year. So let's assume the snail even lays about 400 eggs per clutch 4 times a year. That is 1,200 eggs or snails that will be produced from a single snail. So if you multiply the world population of African giant snails, and each snail goes by that, and since they are hermaphrodites, all snails lay eggs. So naturally the population of the snail will be something you cannot imagine. So that is why you see they also have a higher rate of mortality, probably God's way of checking the population for the animal. So that's why when you have a snail farm, even when you're doing everything correctly, you have mortalities here and there, 1, 2, or 3, depending on the number of snails you have. You cannot be losing 20 snails a day or a week when you have 1,000 snails. But if you have 10,000 snails on your farm, like we have here, 10,000 snails, if you're losing 10, 15 snails a week, it's understandable. You are not doing anything wrong. That's normal standard. But when the mortality rate starts hitting 50, 70, 100 per week, that means there's something wrong. And that was the case here. That's why I took the time to come back here and to see what's going on. And after looking at it, I felt it is necessary to make this video for you to also see, so that when you're having cases of mortality, you need to tell us exactly what you're doing. Because if you don't tell us what you're doing, we don't know how you're managing your snails, and you're just telling us the snails are dying, we definitely will not have answers for you. So that's why coming here now to see this, you can take a look at it again. You'll see the water visibly on top. So the snails can barely even stay on the soil. You can see where they are hiding. They have to climb up, and now if you come further, you see the eggs. Here, you can see that these eggs are already damaged. There are so many pens like this where eggs are littered everywhere. These ones are virtually inside the water. So eggs like this may not even hatch again. So these are the conditions that we met here and discovered that it has actually contributed to the higher rate of mortality. So management is key in snail farming. It is not just enough to see a video like this or many of our videos and pick interest to go into snail farming. You need to at least have some level of formal training before you embark on the business. It's a very lucrative business. Like you can see, I just said here, in 3 months, we've had over 30,000 eggs that have been produced on the farm. And out of those 30,000 eggs, we've hatched over 13,000 plus. And those young snails are visibly here for you to see. We'll just take you to those pens. And we still have over 10,000 eggs that are incubated that have not been hatched. So you can see the young snails here. You can see what they look like. They're all over the place. We are about to move these ones to the greenhouse. Of course, from our last video, you can see them all over the wall. Maybe we'll just zoom it a bit for you to see. So those are the young snails, and you can see a lot of them hanging under the woods. So that's what it is. Like I said, over 30,000 eggs produced, over 13,000 plus hatched, over 10,000 plus eggs still in the incubator, and we are just talking about less than 3 months. We stocked with 10,000 snails. So we are not speaking grammar. It is feasible for you to have 100,000 snails produced within a year and more if you start a farm with 10,000 snails. You can even have up to 200,000, because the idea is each snail should be able to produce you 20 young snails within the year. And we've not gone to a quarter of the year, we already have 30,000 mark. So think about what we'll be having in 6 months' time. And if the management is put back in place, you can only imagine what we'll be producing here. So these snails will be moved to the greenhouse any moment from now, and we'll take it from there. So we effect the corrections. Of course, the farm manager has been told what to do and how to go about it, and also I'll supervise a few things before taking my leave. So thank you. This is just to show you that most times when mortality occurs in the farm, it's not always about the snails. It's not always about who supplied you the snails. Either you got them from me or you got them from another client. Sometimes you need to ask yourself if what you're doing is right. So these are some of the factors that come to play. So if we can take the blame upon ourselves, we'll do better instead of pointing fingers at people. So this is one of the lessons you must learn from this video. Alright, so I think we said a lot. I just want to say thank you. God bless you. And once again, the number to call if you want to reach us is +234 8068525032. You can also go to the description below the video and you'll see the number there. Thank you and bye-bye. Alright, so sorry, I already told you. God bless you and bye-bye as usual, but I just thought I'd show you a glimpse of the greenhouse. You know, the last time we made the video, we showed you both the greenhouse and the concrete pens. So this is what it looks like now. You can see how natural it is inside. So those young snails I just showed you will be introduced here, and they will live their natural life. just like they were in the wild. But we're feeding them with these platforms, like you must have seen in some of our videos. So you can see these platforms is where we pour their feed, and the snails will come in to feed on it. So that way we can actually not allow the snails to depend only on the vegetation. So we'll actually have feed here for them to feed on. We can have fruits, we can have the formulated match for them and all of that. So the snails will grow faster. You can see how natural it is inside. These are dwarf banana plants. They don't grow so tall. Any moment from now you see them fruiting. You can see the trunk is already very big. So this is what it looks like inside. You come in and just take a glimpse. Yeah, so you can see how it is. I know some persons have said you can't have photosynthesis inside here, but it's very funny how someone could say that anyway. So you can see how green the vegetation inside is. So it doesn't lead to dryness or anything. So everything we're doing as professionals, we technically work on all these things and we know exactly what we're doing. So this greenhouse you're seeing is exactly the type of greenhouse they use for tomato farming. It's just that we've designed it in a way and to make it a little more natural for the purpose of the snails. Otherwise, the way they install the greenhouse for tomato, for cucumber and all of that, is the same materials we use. So if this greenhouse will not permit photosynthesis or sunlight to allow these things to grow, you won't see them as green as they are. And also we cannot farm tomato where there's no photosynthesis. So you can see now that we know exactly what we're doing. So the young snails will be introduced here. They live natural and they will grow faster, and you harvest from here to the market. So that's where you also have ample space to manage your snails for a longer period of time before you start thinking about extending your farm. Because if we don't have this, we only have the concrete pens, you may have issues with space. So that is why we always advise, if you're going into commercial farming, you need to have the greenhouse and the concrete pen. So with the greenhouse, you can see how it's controlled it is. We can control everything that happens there. We know the number of snails there, we know what dies there, and we know how to get the eggs out and also incubate them properly for the hatching to be very optimum. So these are some of the things we bring into the farming industry. So we're trying to modernize agriculture to a way that it will be applicable and also a little more easier for everybody to understand and manage. Whether you are an animal scientist, you're an agri student, engineer, or a doctor, it doesn't matter. You can actually go into farming and get it right as long as you consult the right people. So that's what we have to show you. Of course, I've given you the closing remark already before we continue the video. So until we come your way again, thank you, God bless you, and bye-bye.